Okay, thank you for that call, Dee. We have to take a break, and when we come back, we will be open for more calls. You can get in here if you want to participate locally at 240-9962 or toll-free nationwide 800-570-9962. I am talking right now with High Priest Peter H. Gilmore. He is the head of the Church of Satan. You can learn more at churchofsatan.com or thesatanicscriptures.com. And the conversation will continue here on Speaking of Strange. I'm Joshua P. Warren.
You're listening to an exclusive News Radio 570 WWNC podcast. You can listen live, check out the latest news, get host info, downloads, and more at WWNC.com.
Broadcasting live from Asheville, North Carolina, land of the sky, the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the oldest mountains in the world. This is Speaking of Strange. I'm Joshua P. Warren, and right now I'm talking with High Priest Peter H. Gilmore. He is the head of the Church of Satan, and if we get any good calls in here, we'll put you on the air. If we feel you have something reasonable to ask, you can call us locally at 240-9962 or toll-free 800-570-9962. So, Peter, have you ever had what you would consider a paranormal experience yourself?
Yes, actually I did. When I was in about fourth grade, I lived in upstate New York, and I lived in a house that had been built by a person who had owned lots of property in that area. And one night I awoke at about 4 in the morning and saw what seemed to be a manifestation of a person. And it seemed to be looking at me, but didn't seem particularly responsive, and it faded away. And I kind of thought, well, that's sort of an interesting hallucination. Mm-hmm. It didn't scare me, didn't feel hostile in any way, shape, or form. And about a year later, I met somebody who was a historian for the region who showed me a picture of the person who supposedly had built that house and owned all of that property. And it looked a hell of a lot like the impression that I saw of that person. And I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So...
And for me, I think that there's an essence, there's some aspect to the existence where our emotions and our lives can leave an impression in some form that sensitive people can pick up on after they're physically gone. And I don't think that they're conscious survivals. At least it didn't seem conscious to me. But it almost seemed like a tape loop or like a fingerprint, something from this person's being that seemed to exist. Yeah. And again, maybe I was fooling myself. It might have been when I saw the picture, my mind might have just leapt to that and said, well, that's what it was. And it was far enough from the time that I can't be sure. But it seemed like that to me, and I thought it was really fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. There is some essence there. Whether or not it's conscious is debatable. That seems to exist after we are gone. But let's go back to the phone lines. Hello there, Chris, and welcome to Speaking of Strange.
Hello there.
Good evening.
How are you doing this evening, Joshua?
I'm doing very well. What's on your mind?
Well, I have a question for Mr. Gilmore.
Okay.
What is your impression of modern-day musicians in the heavy metal genre that with their portrayal of Satan, such as when they engage in animal sacrifices, or with the infamous band Gorgoroth out of Norway, which ritually beat people and drink their blood and then go to jail for it? What kind of light do you think that casts on the Satanic Church, aside from being incredibly bad?
Well, we think those people aren't Satanists at all. We think they're idiots and criminals, and are delighted when they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Satanism makes it very clear that we don't sacrifice anything, and in fact we revere animals We think that animals are true to their nature in ways that people often aren't. And, and their music is lousy anyway. Who'd want to listen to that crap? So they're aesthetically appalling. They're criminals, and they're not Satanists. So we have nothing to do with those people.
Any follow-up, Chris?
Excuse me?
Any follow-up? Any other question?
That one was the main one that was plaguing my mind. Everything else just kind of linked in with that, with how Satan is being portrayed in modern-day entertainment as just being loaded up with a lot of violence, a lot of murder, rape, and all sorts of torture and whatnot. But that was basically the root of that question.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. I guess it's safe to say, Peter, the Church of Satan does not condone murder, rape, molestation, any of those things.
No, of course not, because we are about respecting people with the kind of respect we want. We're not about forcing people to do things. We don't want to be forced, and we're not interested in forcing other people. Of course, we know that society can regulate murder. We have soldiers that defend our nation, and that's killing, and that can be something that may be necessary to defend. If you're attacked by people or a person who's trying to kill you, we think that it's fine to retaliate in kind, like save your life. You only have one life. Of course, you have to face the consequences of being judged, but of course, it's, as they say, it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
So how do you feel about capital punishment?
That's something that I think is a danger on some levels, because the idea of empowering a government to execute its citizens, since you can't be sure about somebody having actually done something, and since we're kind of finding out these days with DNA evidence that so many eyewitnesses have completely lied or been deluded about their testimony, that empowering a nation to slaughter people based on testimony of people who may not be credible is an extremely dangerous thing. However, there are some instances where there is no question, where there's many, many witnesses, like when Colin Ferguson shot everyone on the train, where I think that it would be justifiable, that actually keeping somebody like that in jail rather than just putting a bullet in his brain is an injustice to the people who he's killed. So I'm of several minds on that one. I think that it's something that would have to be very judiciously applied and not be a kind of blanket policy.
Are there children in the Church of Satan?
We do not indoctrinate our children into our religion. We feel that they need to grow up, and if they have an interest, their parents may instruct them in it. And if they really feel that they want to be part of it and they can demonstrate enough maturity to understand what it's about, then the children of parents who are Satanists have the ability to have a limited participation. But they really can't be fully active members until they're mature adults.
Okay. How do you feel about the number 666 or 616 or any of those sort of symbols? Do you scoff at those, or do they mean something to you?
Oh, we think they're fun. We clearly see them as superstition. And what we did last year for June 6th of '06 was a celebration of our 40th anniversary. And we felt that since the world is terrified of this number, why don't, and then they apply it to a date, which of course even the Bible isn't applying 666 to a date. It was great to perform a satanic high mass in Los Angeles at the Center for Inquiry West, which is a skeptical atheist society. They had a beautiful theater, and we did a satanic high mass there, essentially to mock the Christian superstition and to continue our tradition of iconoclasm. What was hilarious is, as that date was upcoming, I was interviewed by journalists from all over the world who were saying that there were women who were afraid they might actually give birth to a child on that day, and were trying to either retard or speed up their delivery. And to me, that's just so laughably grotesque. So we felt that this was a way of kind of getting some attention to point out how ludicrous all of that is.
Okay, well, let's go back to the phone lines, take another call. Hello there, Harold. You are on Speaking of Strange. Hi, Harold.
Yeah. Hey, I couldn't understand it. There was a little break up there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Hey, this guy, he's okay. I mean, everybody's okay. I like everybody, but